Good morning. My name is Kara Miller, and I am the librarian at Hoover Elementary School in Corvallis. And this year I am the head of the Patricia Gallagher Award nomination committee. So it's been very fun. It's my first time doing it, and there's been a big learning curve and a lot of interesting times that we've had this year and some interesting challenges. So it's been a lot of fun, but I'm happy to be doing it and had a wonderful team this year. You also may have heard my name from the Oracle because I do the reviews of children's books up through middle grade in the Oracle. So that's how I am part of the OSLA group. So I first want to thank the team that came together with me and selected the books for the Patricia Gallagher Award. I had an awesome group of people on the committee this year. So I really want to thank Shannon Yeager, Valerie Potter, Catherine Inman, Ellen Lester, Lisa Ross, and Christy Kegler for all of your wonderful help. We had a great time, even though we weren't all physically there together. We got to Zoom together and chat about books, and it was a great time, and we had a lot of insights, and it was just a really great team to work with. So thank you very much, guys. So I want to start off with the criteria for the Patricia Gallagher Award. So when we look at books for the award for nominations, we look at books that are no more than 10 years old. So they need to have been originally published within the last 10 years. They also need to be readily available in paperback, and this can be a pretty tricky one with the way that our publishing trends are going. And so I know that the dates were extended a couple of years ago because of that. And so now we're looking at 10 years originally published, but also something that you can just pop into a Barnes & Noble and pick up in paperback so that we can keep those costs down. These books also need to be very engaging, not just for the young ones, because we often think of picture books for the littlest of our students, but they need to be engaging for kids all the way through 5th grade. And that can be kind of tricky sometimes. There are books that are really great for that K1 group, or they're really great for that 4-5 group, and finding something that will meet everybody's needs is a bit of a challenge. So those were some of the things that we were looking at as a committee to select the books that we did select. We also keep in mind some other things. We do give preference to local authors. This year, unfortunately, we didn't have any local authors, but that is something that we really take into account because we really like to celebrate our Pacific Northwest group of people, and we have some unique voices from here. So we like to celebrate that. We also try to balance between fiction and nonfiction. So we have 5 books in our selection. We usually go 2 and 3, and so we can introduce kids to both of those groups, and not only have fiction read-alouds that are just for fun and not as factual, I suppose. So we balance those. We also like to balance the styles of our books. So we don't just do, fun stories, but we also include some poetry. We like to include poetry. We like to include, when we're looking at nonfiction, we don't want all the nonfiction to be science related or biographies, or we try to vary that, and you will see how we did that when I show you the books that we selected this year. And we also really, this year especially, wanted to keep in mind representation in the books, so that we want characters who reflect the diversity of the schools that we are at, so that all kids are able to see themselves in the books that we are reading. We also kept in mind some timeliness. We have some issues that you'll see come up in these books, some things that kids are very aware of right now, things that they are actively dealing with. So we wanted to make sure to include some books that had to do with things that are going on in the world right now. And then with the Patricia Gallagher Award, it's great. We like to do them. You know, your school may do them, your librarian may do them, you may do them in a class. But what's great about it is that it's an individual vote for kids, and kids get super excited about that. When I tell them that it's a vote, it's an award that is voted on only by kids, that no adults are allowed to vote, they get super, super excited. And they love that each of their votes counts. So if one kid really likes those nonfiction books, they get to vote for those. And if another kid really doesn't and really just loves the stories, then that vote is also counted. So it's a lovely way to see democracy in action, especially this year as we have elections. It's great for kids to see how that works and how they can participate, how they can educate themselves to be good voters. And so they do that, obviously, in this case, by reading the books with us. So I hope that you will participate this year. It's a really fun program. So I'm going to get down to introducing the books. So the first book on our list is This is the Rope. This is, as it says, a story from the Great Migration. This is by Jacqueline Woodson, and it is illustrated by James Ransom. This book is our poetry book. It is written in verses that kind of repeat themselves. This is the rope my grandmother found beneath an old tree a long time ago back home in South Carolina. This is the rope my grandmother skipped under the shade of a sweet-smelling pine. So we follow this girl as she starts out in South Carolina, and she travels, as she grows up, she travels north, in this case to New York City, and we follow the story through the rope. The rope is the object that ties it all together. We find that the rope tied their belongings to the top of the car, and then the rope dried sweet-smelling flowers as well as the baby's diapers. And then the rope became something for the little girl in this story, her mom, to pull her duck with, and then to play jump rope and make some friends. So it's a very sweet story. I love that thread that goes with it, quite literally, the rope that continues the story throughout. And it's also a really great way for us to talk to kids about some of the race issues that are going on. You know, this one focuses on the mass migration of Black people from the South to hopefully find a better life in the big cities like New York, Chicago, LA, and that movement and how that worked. So it's a really great introduction for kids in understanding some of our history in America on race relations. So excellent book. Then we move on to My Awesome Summer by P. Mantis. This is by Paul Meisel. And this book is a fiction book, but it's kind of a science-y book too, because it goes through the entire life cycle of this praying mantis. And this is one that is going to get kids laughing. It starts out with how he hatches from his egg. So it's kind of written in diary form. So it starts with May 17th. I was born today. It's a beautiful, sunny spring day. And then we hear that it was crowded. May 18th. It was so crowded in the egg case. Really, really crowded. Me and around 150 praying mantis brothers and sisters. I don't have any wings yet, so I can't fly. And so it goes through the summer of P. Mantis, and what he eats, and how he lives, and how he hides himself, how he blends into the plants to escape the birds. And also then we get to the funny parts that I think kids are going to enjoy. June 2nd, all the aphids are gone. I'm hungry, growing so fast. I ate one of my brothers. Okay, maybe two. So there's some humor in it that is completely factual. And one thing that we really loved about this book is it really lends itself well to extension activities. I can just imagine getting a praying mantis egg sac and, putting it in one of those containers and letting the kids watch the process of the mantises hatching and how, releasing them even into a school garden area and seeing how they protect the plants. So this is going to be a really fun one for those extension activities. Then we're moving on to our third book. This is Whoosh. It is Lonnie Johnson's Super Soaking Stream of Inventions. This is by Chris Barton, illustrated by Don Tate. And this is a really fun book to do with kids. I have done this with kids myself. And there's some really great activities that you can do with it. But this is the story of Lonnie Johnson, a real person. So this is our nonfiction biography. He was a real man who worked for NASA. He was an engineer, and he decided that he wanted to be an inventor. He started inventing things and kind of started to get those contracts. And so he quit his job, decided he was going to be a full-time inventor, and then everything fell through. And so he was stuck. What does he do now? Well, in true hero fashion, he pushes through, he persists. And even though his family lost their home, they had to live in an apartment, he didn't have this wonderful workshop that he had always wanted, he still pushed on, kept inventing, kept looking for somebody, some toy manufacturer, because his big project that he was super excited about was his water gun. And so he kept pushing, and even though he got all these rejections, he just kept persisting until he found a group that wanted to produce his invention, which is what we know as the Super Soaker. So there's all sorts of really fun things. All kids know what Super Soakers are. It's a great thing to bring some fun stories of your own or some experiences of the kids. Maybe have some invention contests or things like that. But this is a really it's a fun story about a real person who worked so hard and a fun invention. So kids really enjoy that one. And then we're moving on to Tiny Creatures, the World of Microbes. This is another one that we loved because of the timeliness of it. This one is by Nicola Davies. It's illustrated by Emily Sutton. And as we know right now, there's a lot of talk about microbes, especially one in particular. And this book talks about what they are, what they do. And so we have a lot of this negative association right now, especially for kids who are hearing all about the virus and how bad it is. And this book is great because it addresses how many types of microbes there are and what they do, and that they're not all bad, and it's actually only a very small amount of microbes that are a negative thing for us that can make us sick, but most of them help the environment. They break down dead things, they help build things up, they keep our bodies healthy. We have them inside and outside, and that's a good thing. So we can see all these different uses for them. And I love this picture. She talks about how some microbes are round, some are skinny, some have wiggling tails, some look like daisies, some look like shells, some are squishy, some look like spaceships, some look like necklaces. And I'm just imagining one more in here that looks a little like a spiky crown ball. So it's a really fun book. It's very accessible for all ages. That's the other thing that we really loved about this. It's something that you could really have some good discussions with those 5th graders, but those kinder and 1st graders, it's really written in a way that they are going to understand about this and learn a lot. So that's a really fun one as well. And now we're on to the last book. So the last book is Tiger in My Soup. And we chose this one because it was a really fun story. We see some really good reflection of different diverse characters. We also see in here a love of books, and that's what's really fun. In this book, we have a character who is being watched by his sister through the day. His sister is in charge of the house, the lunch, and me. And what he really, really, really wants from his sister is for her to read him a story. And she is not interested. We can see that very plainly from the look on her face. She is so over this. She doesn't really want to be in charge. She wants to do her own thing. But man, he wants her to read to him. And so he pesters her and pesters her. And finally, she'll make him lunch. And then we see his imagination start to get the better of him. And suddenly, there's a tiger in his soup. So this is a really fun one. We also see as he's battling this tiger really comes to life, just the way the books do for kids. And then he finally is able to convince his sister to read to him. And she starts to kind of read, and she's like, "In the hot, steamy jungle, there was a loud roar." He says, "No, no," I say, "you have to roar like a tiger." And so his sister does. She becomes that tiger for him. Just like when we read a book to kids, we have that expression that just brings it to life for the kids. So this is a really fun one as well. I've been saying that a lot. These are all really fun books. So I hope that you enjoy all of those. Moving forward with how this all works, we will be having extension activities for all of the books available on the Patricia Gallagher Award page on the OSLA website. And that was thanks to my awesome committee members who have been helping me put those together, finding resources so that you can find some really fun activities and ways to relate these well for your classes. This year, we're going to have our reporting just a little bit different. So we are providing the ballots so that your kids can circle the books that they enjoyed the most. Remember, this is an individual vote, so if you read it to your class, it's not a class vote. It's not like, okay, which one is our class's favorite? It is an individual one, so every kid's vote gets to count. But this year, we will have a Google form for you to report. So instead of emailing your answers, your vote numbers, you will instead fill out everything on a Google form. It's going to be super slick and easy on my end for tallying things together. We also, May 1st is the deadline. So you want to make sure that you've read all these to your students before May 1st, and the votes are due on May 1st of 2021. So next year, I'm going to be a little more on top of this. It was a little bit of a last minute thing with me jumping into to head this committee this year. So next year I'm going to be more on top of it. Hopefully things will be a little more normal looking as far as school and jobs go. But I will have a place for nominations much earlier than this year. So be watching for that. We will send out information, but we really want to hear the books that you would like to nominate for this award. We like to have a really robust list to move from so that we can pick like the top, the creme de la creme of these read-alouds to present to kids. So I will have a list out earlier next year for everybody to add books that they think would make great nominations for this award. And I also really want to encourage you, if you want to participate in our committee, you are absolutely welcome to. You can email me at pgaward@oregonread.org if you would like to participate in our committee. Hopefully next year it will be in person. It will be a lot more fun if we can do it in person, but it's a day where we just read a lot of books and then we talk a lot of books and we come up with these great insights. It's a wonderful thing because everybody brings something different to the table. We get new insights, things that we hadn't even thought about. And so it's just a wonderful day. And even if all of the books that you love don't make the list, then you have really good resources for things that you want to bring to your kids in the future. So I hope that you enjoy this. I hope you participate. And I thank you for the opportunity to present this to you and to participate. I've been really enjoying it. So have a great rest of your day and a great meeting. Thanks.